Hello and welcome to the introduction of the Nintendo 64 Challenge. I'm ToadFan5 and I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about the N64 Challenge that I'm doing over on my Twitch channel and how I intend to integrate YouTube into it as well. About a year ago, I made the decision that I was going to spend the next few years beating every North American released N64 game. It's been an absolute blast so far as we're closing in on 100 games beaten. And I'd like to just take a minute to talk about some frequently asked questions about the challenge and talk about what's coming over to the YouTube side of things. The question I get asked most often is how did I decide the order in which I'd beat each game? The answer was I put all 296 games on a wheel and I spun it 295 times. That's it. Completely random. And why this challenge? The N64 is my favorite console. I own all 296 games, and I wanted to beat them, so the challenge just kind of happened from that. I've been taking notes on every game we've beaten so far, and I plan to turn each game into a full review. I'm going to do my best to give each game a proper review with as little nostalgia bias as possible, but I have made a note of the games I grew up playing, because I believe a completely bias-free review is impossible. That being said, let's go over the list of games. Tom and Jerry and Fists of Fury is notable for being the first game of the challenge, not much else. Chameleon Twist 1 is among the better N64 platformers. Quest 64 has some really good music, but it's definitely more infamous than it is notable. Resident Evil 2 is the next notable game. Armageddon 64 might legitimately be the worst game I've ever played. F-Zero X is arguably the best futuristic racer of all time. Star Wars Episode 1 Racer might be the best Star Wars game of all time. For 1997, Doom 64 was easily the most unique entry in the series. Star Wars Episode 1 Battle for Naboo is a pseudo-sequel to Rogue Squadron. NBA Hang Time is a pseudo-sequel to NBA Jam. The next notable game is Cruisin' World. Following that, we have Bomberman Hero, which has arguably the best song on the N64. Up after that is a underrated masterpiece, Castlevania Legacy of Darkness. Up next we have Toy Story 2, a really solid licensed platformer. Following that we have Castlevania 64. Up next we have arguably the most underrated platformer, Chameleon Twist 2. We have the rarest game in the entire console's library, Play Fighter Sculptor's Cut. Up next is NFL Blitz. Then we have arguably the best tennis game of all time, Mario Tennis. Up next we have what is often described as the worst game on the console, Superman 64. But right after that is one of my all-time favorite games, Rayman 2: The Great Escape. And following that is my favorite game on the N64, Super Mario 64. Right after that, we have a relatively unknown port, Bookworms Armageddon. Rugrats in Paris is notable for being the 64th game, and not very good. The next 8 games don't have much that's notable. I really like Iggy's Wreckin' Balls, but Pokemon Snap is the clear standout. Following that, we have Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards, an excellent platform. We've got the one, the only, Big Mountain 2000. Up next, we have Star Wars Rogue Squadron, a game revered by many. Up next, unfortunately, we have Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, often cited as another one of the worst games of all time. At least we have Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, pretty much right after. We have one of the true big RPGs of the console right after that in Ogre Battle 64, Person of Lordly Caliber. Conker's Bad Fur Day is the standout M-rated title on the N64. Beetle Adventure Racing is a game so much better than it had any right to be. StarCraft 64 is an incredible achievement and is game 100. Shadowgate 64 is an incredibly unique game on the console. After that, we have San Francisco Rush 2049, a game which critics adored. There's not really a standout title in this list, but I have a lot of fond memories playing Snowboard Kids 1. Following that, we have arguably the greatest 3D platformer of all time in Banjo-Kazooie. Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey is actually the first game released for the N64 that had 4-player controller support. Killer Instinct Gold is often regarded as the best 2D fighter on the N64. Bomberman 64 has really good music and is a super unique Bomberman game. Space Station Silicon Valley is just a crazy unique game. In addition to being incredibly rare, Super Bowling is actually a really good bowling game. Goemon's Great Adventure is arguably the best 2D platformer on the N64. At one point, Shadows of the Empire was regarded as one of the must-play N64 games. Now it's often seen as poorly aged. Paper Mario is in my top 5 N64 games and is easily the best RPG on the console. Mario Golf is the best golf game of all time. Lover. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 improved the skateboarding from Pro Skater 1. Army Men Sarge's Heroes was one of those everyone talked about it kind of games. Hey You Pikachu is the only game released in North America that used the VRU. Mischief Makers is the only Treasure-developed game we got in North America. Mystical Ninja starring Goemon is crazy, and I can't wait to play it. Pro Skater 1 might not have the best mechanics, but it's still my favorite one to play. Gex 64 is arguably the most hit-or-miss game on the console. Daikatana was supposed to be the next Doom. It wasn't. Body Harvest was developed by the people who went on to make GTA. Bomberman 64: The Second Attack might be the most underrated game on the N64. The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask. Do I even need to say more? Wave Race 64 is an all-time classic. Mario Party 3 might not be my favorite on the N64, but it's still very good. Turok 2 Seeds of Evil is often listed with Perfect Dark and GoldenEye as the best 3 FPS games on the N64. Donkey Kong 64 is the ultimate collectathon. Snowboard Kids 2 is just a better version of Snowboard Kids 1. Turok 1 is the game I think of when people talk about N64 Fog. Scooby-Doo Classic Creep Capers means a lot to me, but it's not very good. Gauntlet Legends is among the best multiplayer N64 games. Pokemon Stadium 2 has some really good minigames. 007 GoldenEye arguably introduced the concept of speedrunning. Mortal Kombat Mythology's Sub-Zero is a game I'm not looking forward to at all. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Again, do I need to say anything? Mario Party 2 is my favorite Mario Party. Banjo-Tooie is another incredibly good 3D platformer. WWF No Mercy is the only wrestling game I think is actually good. Star Fox 64 is still the best Star Fox game. Seen by many as a disappointment, I think Yoshi's Story is a very good game. BattleTanx Global Assault is straight up a better version of the first game. And Mario Kart 64 is an all-time classic, and is actually kind of underrated now. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six actually has super unique mechanics. Rocket Robot on Wheels is a hidden gem on the N64. 1080 snowboarding is seen as a classic by many. Smash 64 is my second favorite Smash Bros. Game. Definitely a product of its time, but Cruisin' USA is still fun. Spider-Man is too often overlooked as one of the better licensed N64 games. Buck Bumble might have the best intro of any N64 game. In its own right, Mickey Speedway USA is still a very good kart racer. Pilot Wings 64 might be the most calming game on the entire console. And Star Soldier Vanishing Earth is the only shmup we got in North America. So I'm going to level with you guys a little bit on this one. None of these 8 games are really worth noting anything about, except for the fact that it's unfortunate we got 2 baseball games back to back. From what I've played, Turok 3 Shadow of Oblivion seems like a super underrated FPS. Mega Man 64 is Mega Man Legends on the N64. Critics rated Perfect Dark extraordinarily high. Jet Force Gemini might be Rare's least talked about game on the N64. I have really good memories playing Hydro Thunder back in the day. Pokemon Stadium 1 also has really good minigames. Mario Party 1 is the most unique Mario Party. And closing out the challenge, we have an all-time classic in Diddy Kong Racing. And that's the games. I hope you can join me in my community every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights, where we are going to be completing these games, talking about them, getting some opinions, and then working on making them into YouTube videos. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.